Back to the daily grind, and shout out to the full-time patrons. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
What is up, full-time family? Ariel Helwani has reported that after UFC 223 there was a plan put in place for a mini tournament involving 4 of the UFC's biggest stars: Khabib Nurmagomedov, Conor McGregor, George St. Pierre, and Nate Diaz. Winners face off. Now those talks have stalled, and George St. Pierre wants GSP next. Khabib wants GSP next, since these talks have stalled. But first, we've got to imagine this fucking lightweight tournament for a second. Could you imagine how big that fight would be? Let's say Nate Diaz fought GSP. Probably give that fight to GSP. Let's say Conor McGregor fought Khabib. Who knows what would happen in that fight? But if it goes to decision, we'll just give it to Khabib, because Conor McGregor's more known to, need to knock guys out. And if he doesn't do that, we've seen him fade in the later rounds. We haven't really saw that from Khabib. He's got a better style as far as wrestling is concerned versus striking. But Conor McGregor's definitely well-rounded, though. You've seen him working on his jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. But either way, let's just say Khabib managed to beat Conor McGregor, GSP managed to beat Nate Diaz, then they would face off. Holy smokes, that would have been huge for the UFC. And that might have been where Dana White's George St. Pierre versus Nate Diaz talks came from, when he said, we're trying to get GSP versus Nate Diaz at UFC 227. But as I reported, just because Dana White and the UFC want this to happen doesn't mean the Diaz brothers are going to want it. They've been notoriously known for saying they don't want to take each other's fights. Nate Diaz isn't going to take a fight that Nick Diaz would want, and Nick Diaz isn't going to fight Conor McGregor because that's Nate Diaz's fight. As big as it would be, they're not fighting each other's fights, and they've said that before that. So I was like, man, we'll see what happens as far as, the Diaz brothers are concerned. And lo and behold, they came out about a week later and said, yeah, no, we're not taking that fight. Nick Diaz said, I'll slap anyone that tries to make it. Nate Diaz said, nope, not until you admit you poisoned Nick and you're on steroids against Nick, and the fucking aliens came down and helped you against Nick. No, there was 3 different things that they said helped GSP beat Nick Diaz, and GSP jokingly admitted to it on the Joe Rogan podcast, but it was a complete joke, but it was hilarious. He was like, all right, Joe, I have a confession. We did, poison Nick Diaz before the fight, but then he kept coming, so we were even more terrified, and I missed weight, but he still wanted to fight, so I was even more terrified. So I decided to take steroids too. He was hella joking, just poking fun at the fact that they think there was a whole conspiracy and setup when Nick Diaz fought GSP. So with that being said, though, that is still Nick Diaz's fight, I would say, between George St. Pierre. There's been talks of a rematch, and but the thing about the talks of a rematch is it's never been really official. It's all been kind of fans have talked about wanting to see Nick Diaz versus GS2 potentially. We've seen some people from GSPs can't come out in the past and say they're interested in the Nick Diaz rematch, but other than that, man, it's really been focused on these lightweights. Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov, the UFC former lightweight champions. Nate Diaz, the only guy in the UFC to ever beat Conor McGregor, so he's already in there. And these 4 fighters are potentially the UFC's biggest stars, and they are all almost in the same division. The only person we haven't seen fight at 155 pounds out of these 4 is George St. Pierre, but he seems like that's what he's targeting for his next move. He's looking for legacy fights. And speaking of legacy fights, since these plans have stalled, the UFC for whatever reason, and I'm gonna assume it's a Nate Diaz reason, because Khabib said he's open to fighting Conor McGregor and GSP, and I don't see why he would just say, yeah, but I don't want to do a tournament if Nate's in there. I'm sure he would be down to fight Nate Diaz too. The only person that I would see not wanting to be in this tournament would be Nate Diaz, because that would be putting him in one of his brother's fights against possibly George St. Pierre. And other than that, also, if let's say Nate Diaz fought GSP and lost the tournament, he kind of lost his fight with Conor. He didn't lose it. Of course, if you booked Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz after, it'd still be there, but it wouldn't be the same thing, I don't think, if Nate Diaz lost in the tournament. It's you're fighting to see who's the best. But, what if Khabib and GSP won? Then we could still have a little losers bracket between Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz, low-key. The winners fight the winners and the losers fight the losers. Then you got fucking 3 big fights instead of 2. That could have happened. That would have still been Conor McGregor versus Diaz 3. Probably not how you imagined it if they would both be coming off of a loss, but it still would be there. Like I said, it just might not be the same, but who knows? But either way, man, if this did happen, that would be some low-key crazy shit, some Bellator stuff. I don't remember the last time we seen an actual, like, little tournament style anything in the UFC. I mean, we've got the Bellator Heavyweight Grand Prix going on right now, which is pretty cool. There's 4 fights left in that. But as far as a little mini tournament in the UFC, especially involving the biggest stars, God, that would probably bring a lot to the sport. I think that would have been big for the sport. But the plans have stalled. Now, with the plans stalled, Khabib has said, you know what? I'm setting my sights on George St. Pierre instead of even Conor McGregor. I mean, there's been talks of Khabib coming back and either fighting one or the other, Conor McGregor or George St. Pierre. And now his manager, Ali Abdelaziz, has came out and said this is what he had to say. We believe the fight to make is the GSP fight at 155 pounds. Khabib wants to fight for legacy and not for a soap opera drama show, and we think Conor doesn't deserve this opportunity. The guy hasn't fought in almost 2 years. Why does he deserve to fight for the title? He should get his ass back in line and work his way up. And this is kind of along the lines of the things they were saying before the fight. Khabib was like, whenever I win the belt, I'm going to make Conor humble. I'm going to make him wait to fight me. He doesn't deserve to be fighting the best fighters in the world because he's taking vacations. He's not defending his belt. He's jumping from division to division. He's doing all of this Burger King big drama show bullshit. Meanwhile, we're over here trying to get to the title. And now that I get the title, you ain't gonna get a title shot just because you want one. I'm the champion now. I want to fight the #1 contender. And the way you've been acting and not fighting, you're not the #1 contender. So Khabib wants to send a message to Conor McGregor and say, you ain't getting this fight just because you want it. Now, with that being said, that all sounds good. It sounds real good. It really does. But if Conor McGregor comes out tomorrow and says, let's fucking do it tomorrow in your backyard, send me fucking location, McGregor's on the way, guarantee you Khabib wants all the smoke, because Khabib does still want to pay Conor McGregor back for that fucking dolly attack at UFC 223 when Conor McGregor got let into the back door, slipped the security, found the nearest dolly and chucked it at the nearest bus. Got 4 fights canceled from UFC 223, and it was all really aimed at Khabib Nurmagomedov, although Rose Namajunas, Michael Chiesa, and who else? Anthony Pettis? No, Ray Borg. They were the actual casualties. All the motherfuckers you can hit with the dolly. You miss Khabib. So Khabib's like, yo, wait, no more fighting buses. We're not doing no more bus fighting. Either send me the location or sign the dotted line. There's enough of this big drama show bullshit, homie. But with that being said, this is really Conor's show, right, as far as who he wants to fight. If Conor comes back and says, I'm not fighting no one but Khabib, I think we're going to be seeing Conor versus Khabib. But it also still at the same time, George St. Pierre is probably the next biggest name. And as far as legacy is concerned, honestly, I don't really know how much better of a legacy fight GSP would be at 155 pounds for Khabib, because it's like, it's not like Khabib's going up, right, and doing a champ type thing, showing pound for pound skills, going up to another weight class and winning that belt. It would kind of be GSP, you know, 37-year-old GSP draining himself down to 155. It would essentially just be a big fight for Khabib, right? But I mean, we don't know how GSP looks at 155. He might look bad. What if GSP drains himself to 155 and gets tired after the second round because he miscalculated the weight cut? He never fought at 155 and it just wasn't for him. So what if he lost the fight and it's like, yeah, I gotta go back up to 170? But how much is that of a legacy fight is that if you beat a GSP no one's ever saw before that didn't look good? You know, I think people are doing a lot more for the legacies by moving up and down weight classes, becoming pound for pound champions, pound for pound great fighters. We see Valentina Shevchenko about to do it. We see Daniel Cormier going up to heavyweight, you know, light heavyweight and heavyweight. So, I mean, either way, it would be a great fight and it would be a great name for your resume, George St. Pierre for sure. But to the hardcore fans, which maybe you don't really care about the hardcore fans, there might be a little bit of a, yeah, but you fought him at 155. You know, who knows? But we'll see what happens, man. But this lightweight tournament would have been dope. But for now, it looks like since the lightweight tournament is probably not happening, Khabib has his sights set on George St. Pierre. He's not going to fight Conor McGregor just for the money. He said he does want to settle things with Conor McGregor as far as the bus attack is concerned. He does want to make him pay for that shit. But as far as his MMA UFC legacy is concerned, he wants the GSP fight. Now, with that being said, it is what it is. Let the full-time family know what you think in the comments. I'm out. And as always, thanks for checking out this video. If you want to join the notification gang, make sure you hit subscribe and also hit the bell next to it so you're notified every time I upload a video. And if you want to help this channel reach its full potential, consider hitting the PayPal link in the description or going to patreon.com/fulltimemma and becoming a patron. I'm out.
This is #1 bullshit.